It's the sign of manifestation. What are we, okay, if one old world is collapsing and old systems are collapsing, very much signaled by Pluto moving through those last few degrees of Capricorn, what is the new that we are building? Capricorn is very linked to manifestation, building for the long term. Very positively, that sign is linked to integrity and self-responsibility as well. And those themes are reinforced at this full supermoon by the fact that the sun is trine to Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn. So that's a very positive aspect, again, suggesting building something strategically for the long term. That trine also reinforces another trine at this full supermoon of the moon trine to Jupiter. And this is beautiful because this is really talking about our futuristic vision in building strategically for the long term, which is linked to a higher vision, linked to higher consciousness, linked to faith, really. So very, very positive. So it isn't that we have to wait for the collapse of the old world before we can begin the new. These two processes are happening simultaneously, and this, I think, is very much evidenced at this full supermoon. So what are we now building at this time? Well, as I've talked in recent videos, and I will be talking all of this year, it's very much linked to our choices. Let me share the chart with you. So I've got a lot to say here. This looks quite complicated, and it is. So one thing I've been talking about, which is very dominant really all the way through to November, is Pluto square to this nodal axis, north node and south node. It's in a T-square. And this is very much to do with our choices. Are we going to keep falling back to our old patterns of the past because they feel familiar and therefore safe in some way? Or are we going to step out like the Fool in the Tarot and step into the new? That theme will become stronger once the North Node shifts into Aries on the 18th of July for the next 18 months. Now, I really want to say here that I want to revisit this because I'm feeling it so strongly that when we have a lot of noise and drama in the 3D world, and we are going to have an awful lot of noise and an awful lot of drama and an awful lot of chaos in the 3D world, because we're in this rare situation of so much high frequency energy coming into us, because we're shifting through the galactic current sheet, because we have massive surges of photonic light that we haven't had for around 12,000 years, because we have huge surges of solar flares that again are a result of the drop in the sun's and the Earth's magnetic shield. So we've lost a lot of our cotton wool buffer. These are rare times, and therefore the very great amount of high frequency energy necessarily is causing turbulence in the overall energy field. When things were much more 3D, we didn't have anything rocking the boat as severely as we do now, but of course it has tremendous purpose. This is an accelerated evolution for humanity. So everything begins with energy, the invisible. Energy is foundational and fundamental to anything that manifests. Everything begins with energy. And I mean, our bodies are printouts of our consciousness. And we kind of know that because we know that a lot of health conditions or, diseases have an emotional basis that began in the ether, as it were, and have now made manifest in the physical. So our bodies are a printout of consciousness. The physical is always the final expression, the final manifestation of what the energy, the invisible energy, created. So in order to change things, it is much harder work to battle the physical, the final expression of how the energy is manifested. It is much more efficient to go to the root of working with the invisible. working with the energy. I hope I'm making sense here. So although there will be so much drama to catch your attention, be disciplined, move from victim to co-creator, yes, you can be aware of what's going on in the world, but don't, I suggest, become emotionally, negatively engaged in it. Don't go into fear, don't go into panic, don't go into anger, because then you're quantum entangling with what you don't want and then blaming it for giving you a hard time. I've said that many times. Try and put all of your energy, focus, and attention on your internal state, because that is where everything begins for you in your reality. And remember, in ancient philosophy, they say that each of us is the only one here. And I know that's really, really hard to get your head around. But nevertheless, it is absolutely unequivocal, in my view, that everything in our reality begins with our energy, our focus and attention. Where are we putting, what are we feeding in a quantum way with our energy and attention? Because everything cascades from our frequency. So I'd really suggest to you that as many times as you can in your day, find stillness and find bliss. Find joy in the simplicity of birdsong. Smell the damp earth. Celebrate the spring green leaves. Laugh, hug, and milk it, celebrate it, over-egg it, because that's what will increase your frequency, and you broadcast that to the world like a lighthouse. And some of you may be sitting there, particularly if you haven't listened to me before, thinking, has that woman got any idea what is going on in the world? And she's talking about, celebrating birdsong. Yeah, I've got a lot of idea about what's going on in the world, but we don't change it by going round the hamster wheel of war, death, misery, poverty that we have done for thousands of years, and keep repeating those victim fear patterns. It hasn't worked before. It's not going to work now. We have to up our game to step beyond the hamster wheel, to go to the root of how reality is formed, which is why I'm suggesting in these very simple ways we work with our energy in really, really for free for all, simple ways. And I suggest them to you because they worked for me over many, many years when I was in situations of extreme challenge and I had no other resources to turn to but myself, which is how I developed these very simple techniques. So see yourself as the lighthouse. See yourself as just beaming light out to the world. You increase your heart's toroidal field when you do that. Your energy becomes more coherent, but the bigger the light, the stronger the light, the broader the light, the more people you infect with your light. And in my previous work, when I was teaching management people, I studied a lot of research from the big business schools of Yale and Harvard. And what they were studying was when a presenter to a business audience was in very positive, confident, convincing energy state, their success rate with the audience was much better than if they were nervous or edgy or where they appeared to lack confidence. And so it isn't just the content that we are sharing as presenters, it's the energy exchange. We all of the time, way, day-to-day life, way outside the presenter situation, every interaction we have with people, we are infecting them with our energy, positively or negatively. We leave every person we meet, even in a shop, even with a smile, better or worse than we found them. And we can even do this silently by we radiate our state of being, and other people feel that. The more you are in this very positive state, the more I honestly believe that you are bubble wrapped from the worst excesses, I've said this before, of whatever is manifesting in 3D, because there are many different dimensions that exist in the same space. Just like two people can go into a haunted house, one person sees the ghost and the other doesn't, it's the same space, but they have different experiences because they're operating in slightly different frequencies and dimensions. There are many, many dimensions on this earth. And we change our experience of them by shifting our frequency. By shifting our frequency, particularly upwards, to be more light, to be in more joy, to feel more love, to laugh more often. That's where we need to focus, because what we are actually doing then, in physics terms, we are altering the quantum wave structure. We are altering the quantum wave structure. And this is something, way back in the Egyptian mystery schools, they understood. They would train people to change their physical reality by changing their frequency. And this is a mastery we have to relearn, we have to remember, because the principles are incredibly simple. And so when we do this, when we shift from a situation of fear and anger and panic and whatever else, and move to a very loving frequency, without any effort, we will start to magnetize people, opportunities, situations into our life that are just like synchronicities. It's just like the magic zone. We don't even have to try. It's effortless, because you can only experience that which you are the frequency of. It's just like a radio dial. Whatever you're tuned to, you tune to hard rock, you can only hear hard rock. You tune to classical music, you can only hear classical music. That's exactly how it operates in the universe. So